do 333.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for this opportunity. Honorable Speaker, there has been a misconception that NG CDF is a fund that belongs to members of parliament. And indeed, Honorable Speaker, for those who have taken time, and I'm sure many of us have have read the judgment that was pronounced by the courts, there is also that misconception within the courts that NG CDF is a fund as it were before 2015, where MPs are still patrons of this fund, and far from it, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, when I read that judgment, I could not help myself but clearly see that this was more of a political judgment than a legal judgment, Honorable Speaker. The politics in that judgment, Honorable Speaker, speaks volumes. Honorable Speaker, I am not a lawyer, but interpretation of the law is just as simple as reading plain English. With all due respect to the lawyers in this House and seasoned ones like yourself, Honorable Speaker, who has also sat as on the bench. Honorable Speaker, when the judges pronounce themselves on matters touching on CDF and claim that there is duplication of functions between NG CDF and the county governments, Honorable Speaker, that is a language spoken by the Council of Governors, Honorable Speaker. And we should not lie to ourselves that the judges are simply saying what the Council of Governors has been saying. Honorable Speaker, when we recrafted the NG CDF Act from the old CDF Act, the NG CDF Act was very particular that NG CDF will only serve two particular functions, that of education, excluding the early childhood education, ECDE, that is a function that belongs to counties. And there is not a single constituency, Honorable Speaker, that I know of where NG CDF money is utilized either to construct or to take care of ECD classrooms in our primary schools, Honorable Speaker. The other function of NG CDF touched on security, and there is absolutely nothing in the county government architecture and the functions under Schedule 4 of our Constitution where county governments deal with matters security. It is NG CDF that has helped even in areas where banditry and even acts of terrorism, like in Lamu and other areas, Honorable Speaker, and parts of northern Kenya. It is through NG CDF intervention to establish police posts and police stations, Honorable Speaker, that we have helped the national government in dealing with matters in security. The county governments, even in those very dangerous areas, go to the North Rift, go to northeastern Kenya, there is not a single county government involved in security work, Honorable Speaker. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, because I see my time is over, I just want to plead to our judiciary, Honorable Speaker, that you have no reason as judges to seem popular with governors. Honorable Speaker, because that judgment is just a popularity contest judgment for judges who pronounce themselves, Honorable Speaker, on that matter of NG CDF. But may it be known to them that without NG CDF, there are children in this country who will never access education from the bursaries they get from NG CDF, Honorable Speaker. There are children in this country, Honorable Speaker, who years ago, without CDF, were studying under trees without classrooms. Honorable Speaker, with the recent floods, many of our schools had either classrooms or even... Honorable Speaker, I was saying, with the last floods, either classrooms or ablution blocks that were swept away by floods. Without the intervention of NG CDF, Honorable Speaker, there are children who will not be in school today, Honorable Speaker. I know we have another chance with the Court of Appeal and all the way to the Supreme Court, Honorable Speaker. And we also have a chance to correct what we need to correct from this House because we are the law-making House. If we have to recraft another NG CDF Act, let us do it, Honorable Speaker. If we have to anchor NG CDF, as we proposed under the NADCO bills, in the Constitution, it is high time we now anchor NG CDF, not for the sake of members of Parliament, but for the sake of the people we represent. Those people who have no voice if we don't speak to them. Those people who judges cannot hear unless we speak to the judges. Let us ask our judges to drop the politics, leave NG CDF alone, and allow the children of Kenya to access education, allow the people of the North Rift, allow those who are terrorized by terrorists to live in a country where they are secure.
Junet.
Mr. Speaker, I can't agree more, Mr. Speaker, with the majority leader that this is a political judgment, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, there is no act of parliament that has been subjected to litigation more than the CDF Act, Mr. Speaker. And this is done basically by people who hate members of parliament. They are not doing it for anything else other than hatred that they have for members of parliament, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, when I read the judgment of Mr. Speaker of the court, I was shocked, Mr. Speaker, because in 2013, the same act was subjected to litigation, Mr. Speaker, and at that time they were saying that Parliament is dividing the revenue into three: national government revenue, county government revenue, and the CDF, Mr. Speaker. Subsequently, this House did an amendment and did the division of revenue, where the money was divided between the county governments and the national government, and the CDF was put under the national government, Mr. Speaker. There is no difference between a ministry that is getting an allocation from the national budget of the national government than the CDF, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I was shocked to see in the judgment of the court that one of the reasons why they are saying this act is unconstitutional is because Parliament passes 7 names of members of the CDF committee, Mr. Speaker. How many names do we pass here? We pass even names of commissions, we pass names of county secretary, we pass names here, PSS, AG, we pass here even commission of what this is called, commission of communication authority, Mr. Speaker. Now, what is the problem of passing names here? The other thing that has shocked me about this judgment, Mr. Speaker, is that they are saying the term of the fund manager is for 5 years, which is equivalent to 5 years of being a member of parliament, Mr. Speaker. There are fund managers who have been in office for the last 20 years, Mr. Speaker. I don't know where the judges were reading, they were reading, Mr. Speaker, whether they read the submissions of our lawyers, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I am shocked because the judges behaved as though they live in another country, Mr. Speaker. Recently, there was a burial in my constituency, and I must say this, of a judge, Mr. Speaker. And the funeral was conducted in a primary school, and those classes were built by CDF, Mr. Speaker. They were not built by county government or built by anybody else. Mr. Speaker, the way the CDF has changed the lives of Kenyans, Mr. Speaker, every person knows in this country, including judges. Do they not go home? Do they not come from villages in this country, Mr. Speaker? And people, I'm asking the judges on the floor of this House, from the floor of this House, Mr. Speaker, in my constituency alone, there are over 3,000 to 4,000 students who benefit from bursary. Children of single mothers, orphans, Mr. Speaker. Where do they expect us to take those children, Mr. Speaker? If CDF is scrapped, the best thing I can do is to put those children in a bus and bring them to the homes of the judges, Mr. Speaker, so they can give them fees, so that those children can go back to school, Mr. Speaker. You can't make the lives of Kenyans miserable by just doing a judgment that does not make any sense, Mr. Speaker, according to me. And we are allowed to critique judgment, Mr. Speaker. They had their say. We must have our say here on this floor, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I have been a believer, I have been a supporter of the independence of the judiciary, Mr. Speaker. But now I've come to believe that judiciary now is living in an ivory tower, and they must come down from that ivory tower, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the problem in this country about the 3 arms of government, the other 2 arms of government, the executive and the legislature, are subjected to accountability through elections after every 5 years. Judges are never accountable to anyone. They are accountable to themselves and to JSC, where a majority of the members are judges, Mr. Speaker. And you just wait until you reach 70 or 74 years and you retire. You are not accountable to anybody. How do you want to make the lives of Kenyans so miserable by saying that CDF is not doing anything? Mr. Speaker, CDF is unconstitutional. This is a judgment that has been procured by the Council of Governors, Mr. Speaker, and it is out of egos. They don't want any other money. They don't want any other money to come to the constituencies or to the villages, Mr. Speaker. And what is happening in devolution, you know, all of us, and everybody in this country knows. Corruption, pilferage, lethargy, incompetence. The only money, Mr. Speaker, that has touched the lives of Kenyans for the last 20 years is the CDF, Mr. Speaker. And I want to tell the 1 minute. Mr. Speaker, the name of the fund is NG CDF, National Government, Mr. Speaker. It's not county government, it's not judiciary fund, it's not parliamentary fund, it's not anybody's fund. It's the national government money that is going to the constituencies so that it can build schools, it can build classes, it can build police station, and they're saying there's duplication of functions. We don't do anything outside what the national government is doing. Security and education are not devolved functions, Mr. Speaker. Counties don't do that. Will education improve if today's CDF is abolished? Mr. Speaker, we are going to appeal this judgment, but we will also do a constitutional amendment. We have the powers even to amend the constitution. The judiciary doesn't have. You can declare the act unconstitutional as many times as you like, but we will make sure CDF remains in this country, Mr. Speaker. I submit.
Yes, Kainan.